On to our next topic of the show, which comes from Handsome John himself as he swats the comments away. Boom! He doesn't want to hear nothing. We're talking about advertising. Again with the business talk, John. Why?
So, wow. Thank you, Chrome, for crashing at the right moment. You piece of shit.
You know, you could probably go down the road
It's
to
all
Burger
right.
King.
Doing
use
it
their
from
internet.
mind right now. I'm going to sit here and have to do some stuff
You,
from the brain.
you could probably go down the road to Burger King and use their internet.
Yeah, I know. So, interestingly enough, there was some... You know what? Just give me a second. There's some drama involving Burger King advertisement and Twitch, which I found to be very interesting, mainly for the fact that I didn't think that this would even be possible, but it is.
It did bring up a point or a situation I never thought would be a thing, and now has me intrigued as well as to what you
at
can do
first, when I
about it.
first read this story, I thought it was a bunch of bullshit. At first, it didn't catch my mind. I think it happened probably a week ago. I heard about it. People were complaining about Burger King, and I was like, in their advertisement, I was like, no, I'm not reading that right now. And then, and then all of a sudden, you popped up this story on the newsfeed, and I was like, oh, this became a thing. So streamers are furious after basically the companies are bypassing their advertisement money through donations and advertising through a speech program through the Twitch app.
Twitch, yeah.
And to be honest, I find this absolutely creative. It's awful what they did, but absolutely, you know what? They found a way around it, and kudos on you. You found the loophole. They're gonna close it.
Well, one can only hope, but yeah.
So essentially what was happening were streamers were doing their thing, and then Burger King would come on and they would donate, an exact amount of money it would cost in order to buy a set of products no greater than $5. So you can get, a set of chicken nuggets, a drink, and, a Whopper for $5. And then
Burger King is advertising this show, by the way.
Huh?
Except Burger King is advertising this show, by the way.
Burger King is not advertising the show.
They're not. And so what they would do is after the donation, they would be able to type in what they want through the speech program. And what they would type in was the advertisement stating what they could buy with the amount of money they just essentially donated.
Yeah, because that's a feature on Twitch. If you donate a certain amount and you're part of a tier, you can say a donation and then give a little comment to that streamer. Yeah. The whole point is that you're able to to communicate with them.
Well, that doesn't even come with the necessary level of subscription. Anybody can donate to a streamer, and generally it will pop up on their So the big thing is that it pops up with a notification sound and shows up with some animation or whatever on screen on that streamer's display.
Well, this
and
is
most of the time they read it.
Speech program.
Yeah,
so
this is text to speech. It's reading to them.
Said out loud. So if you want to check out the Kotaku article that we have down below, you'll be able to check out both the advertisements that Burger King was using for that they made with these streams and what they exactly did on the streams themselves. What is so interesting is that the streamers were not involved in this whatsoever. They were not paid any advertisement money. They weren't even asked to be able to be used in their advertisements later on through their collection of streams that they did, and in replacing what they were streaming with fake video games, so they wouldn't run into any issues with, copyright issues. Mm-hmm. So that in itself, it's super cheap on their part, saying, I'm going to get $5 for this, get a reaction, get a set of reactions, and throw that on Twitter, and that is going to be essentially used as advertisement. A multi-billion-dollar company bypassing what they would have to pay through advertisement, which the streamer would get more money, and two, the streamers could decide if they want them advertising for them anyway. Because, say they had an advertisement... to me, if I had Taco Bell as a sponsor, and all of a sudden I got Burger King crashing my stream and violating my contract against my will, that could be an issue. That was not something that was said or talked about, but I'm assuming that could potentially be a problem.
So I think the big thing here is that the FTC requires streamers and other influencers to announce their advertisements, right? You see it on Twitter all the time, #ad. Yeah. Any large channel that has advertisers, they have to notify it. Even as simple as something like the Kind of Funny group, when they get games from PlayStation, they have to make sure it's known to the consumer, this is a game provided by PlayStation. So the fact
it takes away the bias. They're like thinking that they spent money on it because they like it, and no, that's not necessarily the case.
Well, it's informing the consumer. It's important for a consumer to understand exactly how these people are getting these products, because you're right, they're not spending money on it. Now you know why. I think this is like the reverse, but not illegal, and that's what bothers me, is that these advertisers can come onto your stream, advertise themselves against your consent, and you have no say over it.
Well, it's a gray area. Like there's no precedent here. Like this is something that's brand new, because Twitch is kind of a gray area space as far as making money and advertising and all that's concerned to some extent in the first place. Like don't get me wrong, it's been around for long enough now that like some laws have been adapted for this, but like. This is this is a new avenue. Who the hell knows? Who the hell would have thought? Some marketing guy at Burger King is getting a massive promotion and a raise right now because
100%.
Unintended consequence here of not only did they just pay probably $100, let's say, or $500, let's say at most, to a couple hundred streamers anyway to have their products advertised.
Yeah.
But they
got their advertisement through the streamers without their permission. Not only that, but they also took the videos of those streamers and their reactions, blurred out their faces in order to make their advertisement.
To make an actual commercial that is now being utilized.
And I'm like, but there's so many things wrong with that. It's not even funny. I mean, on an ethical level, but at the same time, there has to be an FTC violation, because it's an advertisement that's happening through a stream by a streamer who didn't willingly or knowingly or unknowingly.
But it's not.
Yeah, as far as I can tell,
it's
there's
a donation.
No ruling there.
Like, how do you classify what's a paid advertisement and a donation in that
Because
respect?
they paid them, and then they wrote out an advertisement. It's obviously an advertisement.
But
they even marketed it afterwards as an advertisement.
So the problem is that technically the FTC should come down on the streamers for that.
That's another reason why I think they're pissed off.
Technically, they actually come down the streams, or they have to create a new regulation. The thing right now is there isn't a regulation space for this, right? It's no different, honestly, than if you're... The closest analogy I can think of is if you go onto a radio and they interview you, and in the middle of the interview, you decide to shill, your company or whatever. Like that's literally the closest analog we have. I mean, it's kind of the closest analog we have here, but that's not illegal. You're allowed to do that. You're asking for information, and in this sense, it's also not illegal because, again, the system set up. Streamers can decide to turn that off if they don't want that feature, and you're just asking for people to talk with you as they give you money.
Right.
It's shady as shit.
Yeah, it is.
But there's no law broken.
But it's a multi-billion-dollar company finding a way to cut their advertisement cost at other people's expense.
But now, to be honest, it's playing the system.
Obviously backfiring a little bit, but how many people are really going to hear about this? Which is one reason why I wanted to talk about this.
So the unintended consequence here is it's not even necessarily the advertising campaign itself of them donating and running the advertisement themselves, or even making the advertisement. Video and running it themselves after blurring the streamers' faces out. But the articles and the conversations that happen after the fact are the unintended consequence there. It's the whole, and I bring this up a lot because this, to me, was the perfect example of it, was Amazon and Man in the High Castle. High Tower.
High Castle.
Was it High Castle? Okay. Yeah, like they did one New York subway with a ton of swastikas and advertisements for Man in the High Castle. But that was it. That's all they paid for. But there was so much press that everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
Like there's so much unintended consequence here.
Bad
and they
press
probably
is
knew
still
before.
Good press in a lot of ways. You go to the line and then you back off from it and everybody gets happy, but you still got done what you intended to do.
But that's the thing. I think that Burger King probably knew what they were doing in this advertisement campaign. I imagine they had legal teams behind them saying, yeah, maybe like there's not really a defined space here. This is kind of new territory, which to some marketing exec was probably like, perfect.
The problem is it wasn't Burger King technically. It was an advertisement company called Ogilvy. They also work with brands like Dove and IBM. Now, apparently they're very good at what they do. But the issue that we're also running into is that it takes away the free speech of the streamer itself, because they're basically having their options taken away for their job, their livelihood. They're taking money away from them, and they're promoting something that they never necessarily got to agree to. It's different when you have an ad that runs in your stream. It's another when it happens while you were live on stream.
Sure, but my argument. My thing here
I was just going to say, go ahead, Mark. You want it. Get it.
No, so my thing here is they're providing this. Mm-hmm. They're opening that door in the first place. Realistically, realistically, if one streamer decided they were going to take, Ogilvy to court over it, or Burger King even, because they're technically the contract holder on this, to court on it, realistically, I don't think that they'd have much of a leg to stand on, because they opened the door for this. They allowed this for anybody to do this. So
the problem is that you literally put it out there. That argument of taking away their freedom of speech doesn't work on the grounds of the fact that they're inviting people in. And that just is literally anybody. Like, somebody could tip $5 and say, hey, I'm a fucking Nazi, and it would read it out. Unless they have Twitch has something on their end to prevent that.
Yeah.
Like, maybe. I do think what you're talking about with the income, though, is incredibly important, right?
Well,
streamers typically do make
things after you're done.
I was going to say, streamers typically make income off of two ways, which is one through the actual donations of their viewers, and the other one being making deals. So they will sign up with a company. And so in this way, like having Burger King come in and invade their stream, it does endanger other prospects, right? If anybody is trying to make an advertising deal with them, they get involved in this. An article's written about it. Now they're quoted in it. I'm sure McDonald's or whomever may want to back off because they're not sure if they want to get involved with drama, even though it's not their fault. And B, the fact that Burger King literally could have paid these streamers to have them advertise on there, and they could have seen some of that income, but it cost more money for Burger King, which is why they didn't do it.
Yeah. But I think this is interesting because it's opening up a new landscape for this. It's going to create new regulation. It's going to open up a new space
100%.
Of what is and isn't acceptable here. Because the other thing too is blame still hasn't been put necessarily one way or the other. Don't get me wrong. From the social perspective, sure. Ogilvy Burger King technically also is getting held liable and responsible for this from a social perspective, but we've already said this, there's no such thing as bad press. Like you're going to get promoted one way or the other.
Yeah. I think it was wrong they even used their blurred face. It's one thing if it was like an audio thing or something, but
from a legal perspective, there's really nothing wrong with that. Like that's the issue, Like
we're talking about there's a difference between what is morally right and what is ethically right and what is legally right.
Oh, 100%. And legally right, unfortunately, is the only thing from a dollars and cents perspective that matters. Morals and ethics don't necessarily translate into negative, breaking moral and ethic.
Just put it this way: if their morals and ethics are bad on their advertisement, what are they doing in your food?
But
again, I definitely agree with that.
100%. But what I'm saying is that doesn't necessarily translate to a loss in revenue for them. Like in essence, their name got out there more. So you may have forgotten about Burger King, but you saw a bad article about them. So you're thinking, well, maybe I don't know. I haven't been there in a while, so let me go there. That kind of thing.
Well, it affected a very niche community, but they were also advertising to said niche community, and these people that pay attention to these streamers understand what happened and how these streamers feel about it. So therefore, it is going to affect them. So you could technically shoot yourself in the foot twice.
The diehards of this, like the diehard fans of these streamers, 100%, they're going to be the ones that are going to lash out. But I would argue, in the grand scheme of it, they're relatively small.
Oh yeah,
but like the
dime in
passive,
the bucket, but at the same time, like there's a
the
lot.
Passive watchers.
This is going to be a lot of dimes in that bucket that are missing.
Oh, I know, but what I'm saying is, like, you have to have those people that are dedicated to those streamers and think that, oh no, you hurt somebody that I care about, kind of thing, and that's a different argument, I think.
I think what's interesting will be maybe not necessarily from the legal standpoint, because I'm not quite sure if this one incident is large enough to have people try and bring it to court or law or anything like that, though I think it should be looked at, hence why we're talking about it. I'm really curious to see what Twitch is going to do on their end, because I feel like this is also bad press for Twitch in a way, because this is now a system in place that can be completely manipulated, and if there's not a stopgap...
Good.
I was just going to say, I mean, like, that's kind of my handy thing, but, like, you can literally put something in place of, like, hey, you're not allowed to advertise companies here on streams or whatever, and if you do, you have to clarify in a user profile that you create and all this other thing.
So the problem with donations is donations don't run through Twitch. Always. A lot of times donations run through third-party services. There's no requirement necessarily unless you're, a specific Twitch partner or at a certain level to do that. To my understanding, anyway. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Twitch is going to care.
I don't think they'll care until there's legal things, unfortunately.
Right. So, but this is because from the remember, article that I thought. Oh, go ahead.
I would say Twitch is a Bezos product. Bezos doesn't care. Yeah. His company doesn't care unless there's legal action against him or some money on the line. He really doesn't care. They don't care. Whatever, I think Twitch is not going to care. Yeah.
Quite literally, when Kotaku reached out to Twitch to ask for more information on whether or not it's even allowed, they said that it was not involved in this particular ad campaign. We're looking for opportunities to create and innovate campaigns with leading brands. While we welcome it, we're not involved with the Burger King promotion. And I'm like, that's just such a good dodge. Like, yeah, it's not our fault.
I would say that they accomplished their goal in finding a new and innovative way of running an advertisement campaign.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. It'll be curious. I am super curious to see if this is going to be utilized in another run.
I don't think, until like the legal landscape changes, like sure, it's the Wild West now. Like any company can really come in and do that because nobody's made any moves on this yet. So, anybody could come in and say, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that real quick, until the legal landscape changes for this.
The way I look at this is that someone went into my yard and threw $5 at me and then stuck a sign in the ground without asking. They just threw $5 at me and then stuck a sign in the ground. It says...
That only works if your yard is a rental property and the owner of the rental property doesn't care that they stick the sign in there.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too. The other thing too is you've invited.
It's totally agreeable.
You've invited that option for them to stick that sign there.
You've invited the option for them to stick the money in there, not necessarily.
You don't have to be obligated to say or do
the owner
anything.
Invited the sign.
And, okay, fine. So let's take the sign away. They literally just stood in their yard and started screaming out profanities, or whatever the fuck they want.
But what I'm saying is, like, you basically at that point have created a public space with a sign that says "open to the public" for them to come in and scream things out as long as they put money in the tip jar. Like that's literally what this is. You know, like if they get on their soapbox and scream about, "Hey, buy a Whopper and this or whatever for the $5 I just put in the tip jar," well. Technically, you let them do that, like you opened that door for them to do that.
It's super low brow. I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. I don't care how you look at it. Like, you want to look like a cheap piece of shit. That's one way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I agree.
There's no going back from, you just screwed over people who play video games for a living and stream it to other people who are already struggling, and you're like, let me take more from you.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Burger King's the final say on this. Like, Ogilvy is an advertising company, which means that they pitched their advertisement campaign to Burger King first. Burger King accepts that pitch, and then they go through with it.
We all know that these companies don't really know what the hell's going on. They rely on those companies to know what they're doing. They like the idea, but I don't think they culturally understood what they were doing.
Well, regardless, they still signed off on a campaign of
I just don't think they looked that deep into it.
I do find it funny though that I do find it funny that Ogilvy's tweet literally says Burger King turned Twitch's donation feature into a marketing campaign.
Yes, 100%.
Technically, their contract probably allows them to say that because, well, Burger King signed off on it. So
correct. Yeah.
We developed the idea. That's all we did. They are the ones who said yes.
Yeah. Any last thoughts before we move on to our final topic?
All right, so I'm going to say that just for the sake of argument, I think what Burger King did was absolutely wrong, and I think that there should be something done to stop this from happening in the future.
I don't disagree. So I think that it's an interesting landscape, and honestly, I think it just falls into the line of like the internet is still the Wild West, despite the fact that we have a lot of rules and there's lots of things we have to look at, and this is just. Let's tack another one to the chalkboard, folks. We'll come back to you later.
I guess my final thought on this is a similar perspective of the devil's advocate on this. Of technically, I mean, it depends on how the FTC looks at this, really. Yeah. Technically, a streamer was paid for an advertisement, and it was put out there that it was as an advertisement, and technically. The streamer is supposed to be responsible for saying that it was an advertisement.
But the thing is, it wasn't an advertisement to them.
To them, it wasn't. Have an issue. But that's a perspective issue. So it depends on how the FTC rules on this.
So I want to clarify something because you said it was put out there to the streamer that it was an advertisement. It wasn't. It is literally like they person who donated for Burger King literally would just type, hey, you could take this $5 and go buy a burger combo at Burger King. So there was no forewarning to the streamer that there are ads coming along or something along those lines. So therefore, they don't even have the opportunity to say, I condone this or not.
Well, so the other side of this is that I don't think the FTC would, even if the legal perspective of this is, well, technically, like it was an advertisement on the streamer's content, and the streamer didn't clarify this specifically as an advertisement. Burger King or
all I want to say is the lawsuits that will ensue on this, if FTC does declare these advertisements and these people lose sponsorships, it will cost them a hell of a lot more than what it would be just to pay them for the advertisement.
Yeah, well, so the rate could definitely go up because, I mean, like advertisements on Twitch and YouTube and whatever, there's a market rate depending on your following, like the number of subscribers. I mean,
if they did it to someone like Ninja, for instance, would be catastrophic if like someone like KFC or Taco Bell dropped them. I mean, millions of dollars.
I definitely think there's a reason why they picked the streamers they did.
And that's the thing too. If like the advertisers that they actually have in line, I would imagine. So the difference there is that there's a human element to that of, whoever their marketing relations person that they talk to is going to see that from a realistic perspective and go, well, look, that wasn't your fault. Like we know that wasn't your fault, so we're not going to fault you for the fact that you had an advertisement through a donation service, that kind of thing. Like they know that landscape. They know better than to do that. If they drop them, to be honest, that company's run by idiots at that point to me. Like you know that this is kind of a farce. Like you really shouldn't go off of this. But no, I'm more interested to see how the FTC does this because from a legal perspective, maybe they could do something. I don't think they will. I think they're going to look at this as a gray area and decide to create new regulation around this, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, agree. Please let us know what you think about the whole Burger King Twitch fiasco in the comments floating directly in front of my microphone, but not in front of my hand. So, Mark, I need you to move the comment section right here.
He never does this.
Do that. I know, it's a laziness, I know you edit the show and you put it all together and you're the one who puts it on YouTube and all. Laziness is all.
But you have all the money. Get it done.
You didn't even see the crown on John's head like 2 episodes ago from the whole like King fiasco or King thing we were talking about.
I did see that.
That's because I didn't watch it on YouTube. I listened to other podcasts.
Which you can listen to on all podcast services around the globe.
Now I have to go.